What's going on, everyone? It's your boy back at you with a special 25th issue of Tommy Reed's X-Men, in which we're covering, shockingly, X-Men number 25. How fitting, right? This is from October 1966, written by Roy Thomas, again, and art by Warner Roth, aka Jay Gavin. This one is called The Power and the Pendant. The Power and the Pendant. In which we get the first appearance of El Tigre. Like that little roll the R's? That's what's up. El Tigre. And so we kick it off. Not at the X-Mansion training, but the X-Men are actually in a Rolls Royce. Papa Chuck rolling nice. They're in a Rolls Royce driving Jean back to college. And on the way there, they see a burning orphanage. So they decide to throw on their uniforms and help out, like good superheroes would. Poor Jean has to actually get dressed in the bushes. But, they do what they have to do. Anyway, so the X-Men are at this orphanage rescuing kids straight up at the Outsiders. Shout out to Ponyboy and Johnny, R.I.P. Anyway, the Iceman and Beast are always a team together. I noticed they're always teamed up. They go on double dates. They hang out on their days off. Really, they should be a sub-team called Ice and Not Nice. And we'll get to that in a second because the orphanage is burning. The X-Men are having a little bit of trouble. Iceman's ice ladder that he was using is kind of melting. Jean saves him. But we cut to Hank on the roof of the building. He's got some orphans with him. He doesn't know how to get off. And then briefly, bloop, 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 his thought bubble is, should I save myself? I mean, these are orphans. Who's going to miss them? And yeah, and Hank is a jerk. He's horrible. Who's number one dude is Beast? Like, really? Hit me in the comments if you're a Beast guy. And then, No, I didn't think so. Anyway, so what ends up happening is Cyclops laser optic blasts a tree. And then Beast and the kids are able to get down. So Hank doesn't leave kids to burn and die and save his own skin. So hey, what a hero, huh? So later on, they're driving Jean to the school. And the whole time the orphanage is burning, besides the assist to Iceman, she's just like, I wonder if Scott's going to notice me. But, forget these kids, right? Anyway, the kids... one of the X-Men, not Hank, who's awful, and not Jean, who's preoccupied, asks, what's going to happen to him? And Professor X is, casually makes up some BS about, oh, yeah, actually, I psychically figured out that they're going to build another orphanage and stuff. Now, hold up. Because things are looking a little fishy here. The detective in me is like, what? So, there's going to be another orphanage built. They knew that ahead of time. And mysteriously, a fire breaks out in the old orphanage. Now, I'm not going to say it's an insurance money scam that Papa Chuck might be involved in. But, it seems a little fishy that he happened to be driving by while this orphanage is ablaze. And, yeah, then he knows their business later. Yeah, you can read their minds, but come on now. Papa Chuck's got his shady fingers in a lot of different honeypots. Honeypots. I don't know what. I was watching Winnie the Pooh last night. Anyway, so Jean gets to college, Metro College, and who's to greet her? Our boy Ted. Ted from the last issue makes another appearance. This time they give him a last name. Ted Roberts is there, and he's like, "Hey, Jeannie, let's get to classes, huh? Don't forget these rich guys in the Rolls Royce." Anyway, puts his arm around her and crap. And Scott and Angel are livid. Scott's looking like he's going to optic blast this fool into the moon. And that's it for Jean in this issue. Jean just goes off. She's like, I got some tests coming up, so I probably won't mess around with you guys. And, go adventuring and sleuthing like we did last issue. So, with the Locust. So, good luck with whatever shenanigans you guys are getting into. And shenanigans, they kind of get into. I mean, right now, this is a typical... Because the next panel, the next page, we cut to Central America. How did we get there? This is a typical Roy Thomas story, okay? Roy Thomas, so far the X-Men scripts, he will be The first third of the issue, the X-Men are doing something completely random, fighting cowboys, you know, helping kids in a burning orphanage, and then it has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. Like, I don't know why we just don't get right to the meat of the situation. Like, I don't know why you need this filler. But that's what he does, and that's how he do. And we're along for this ride. So we cut to Central America, where Juan Meros is El Tigre. And, you know, it was a different time, I guess, is the excuse, or the slack. I'm going to cut him. But not really, because it gets worse than this. But, like, I mean, we get a little box of... and it says, you know, it defines that El Tigre means Spanish for the tiger. And it says, from your pal, Senor Stan. Senor Stan. I love Stan Lee, so he gets a pass, I guess. Anyway, El Tigre, not just a Zoolander look. I wasn't doing the look there. I was just pausing while you did the look watching this. Anyway, so basically he's a treasure hunter. And he's looking for what treasure hunters look for. Treasure. God, come on now. That was obvious. Anyway, so he has his henchmen and they're looking for the treasure, and he actually finds something in the ground. He's like, start digging. And they're like, shouldn't we wait till morning? I mean, it's the middle of the night. It's 2:30. We had a hefty dinner. And he's like, no, start digging. So they start digging and they find this half of an amulet. And this is the weird part. He finds the half amulet and he's like, oh, okay, this seems pretty cool. You know, this thing here, this amulet. And he's like, you know what, we'll just dig up the rest of the stuff tomorrow. Why? Like, who breaks into Scrooge's money bin, steals $47, and is like, you know what? We gonna gather it all up later. We got plenty of time. So henchmen do what henchmen be doing, and they try to turn on El Tigre. Now, he stops them quickly when he realizes that the amulet gives him power. And then they fall in line quickly, very quickly. Once he realizes the amulet gives him power, he goes crazy with power. Because I guess the amulet, I want to say possessed him, but they weren't clear on that. Now, we cut back to the X Mansion. Now, we are halfway through this issue. And at this point, reading it, two things happen. One, I was telling my wife what was going on during this issue, and she's like, that sounds like the lady from Suicide Squad, you know, the lame villain at the end. And I was like, yeah, it's probably not going to be the same thing. Hopefully. Is it the same thing? Wait, be patient. Dang. And two, the second point was, at this point in the comic, we are halfway through. This has nothing to do with the X-Men. Now, first off, some random dude stealing treasure seems like an Avengers story. Seems like maybe even a Defender story. X-Men got bigger problems to deal with. They got mutant problems to deal with. This casual guy stealing amulet, leave that for Captain America and the Falcon, y'all. This don't feel like an X-Men story in my bones. But, cut back to the X-Mansion. And Cerebro starts going off. Now, for the past 3 issues, we have to be reminded at least once an issue that Papa Chuck got legs now. He's got this thing, this belt or whatever, the utility belt, that can make him walk. But somehow it has to malfunction, or some shenanigans have to happen that we get him back in the chair. Because we can't have him, you know, like kicking the crap out of somebody or whatever yet. And in this one, he's simply walking down the X Mansion, and Beast, ever the jerk, is like, oh, I forgot that you had that thing. I haven't seen it in a couple days. In a couple days? How do you forget that? Like, look to the person to your right. Now, if you didn't see him for 2 days, you wouldn't forget that they're a brunette or a blonde or whatever, redhead. You know, you'd be like, oh, okay, I forgot your name. It's been 2 days. That didn't make sense. Hank, you're supposed to be the smart one. Be smart, bruh. Beast is just getting on my nerves this time. Anyway, so the professor trips down the stairs. He trips down the stairs, and then out of nowhere, these weird Dr. Octopus-like tentacles just grab him. And he's like, oh yeah, I installed that in the house just in case that ever happens to me. What? the other X-Men are like, does he have this whole place booby-trapped or what? Like, whoever wrote Home Alone, Chris Columbus? John Hughes wrote Home Alone, just so you know. I should have known that too. My bad. They're watching this like, shenanigans on the steps. Maybe, replace, Dr. Octopus hands with paint cans or whatever, and I'll smack the crap out of Joe Pesci. Yeah, so, the X-Men, if I was the X-Men, I'd be worried that he has my room booby-trapped. Like, I'm gonna wake up and get a glass of water, next thing I know, there's a machine gun pointed at my head, and he's like, I just installed that on a whim. But Professor X, Dr. Octopus tentacles save him, and Cerebro, which was supposed to be just to alert him from mutants, is now just alerting him that, there's a danger coming. Hell, there's a danger coming every day. This is the Marvel 616, okay? This is the Marvel Universe. Every day there's some kind of weird thing happening, so Cerebro would just be constantly going off. But I digress, and we go to New York, and El Tigre has shown up in New York. Now, the X-Men don't know what they're looking for. The X-Men don't know who they're looking for. So they're in New York, out of uniform. They're just in their casual suit and tie, which I guess was the style at the time. They're in their casual suit and tie. They decide to look for anyone suspicious. And so they just decide that these three dudes, two of them wearing sombreros, are the suspicious people they're looking for. That is called profiling, y'all. From a mutant. You'd think they would be more tolerant, but they're not. This issue, man, it was a chore to get through. Well, we're gonna keep going on. So, they decide to follow these dudes for no reason, other than they look suspicious than the other white folks. And they look suspicious, and they end up getting a room and doing a stakeout. They do a stakeout. They're following them. They're like binoculars and crap. Like the X-Men are stalking these three Latino dudes, and Cyclops goes to get a paper for some reason, and then he bumps into a dude who knocks him. Like, this is Roy Thomas in a nutshell, man. Like, there's all this stuff thrown in that doesn't have anything to do with the main central part of the plot. Like, Cyclops bumps into a guy and knocks his glasses off. And all of a sudden, his beams shoot out. And this guy's like, this is a mutant. And they start doing some anti-mutant hating on Cyclops. Like, a group of people start a riot almost. And he gets away. And you would think they would have some kind of thought bubble. Or he would go to the X-Men and be like, you know what? I don't know why people are so intolerant of us. And that people don't, just treat us differently because we're different. And you think that would be some kind of lesson that they would learn to not follow these guys. But no, they don't. We're going to follow these guys because they're different. But at the same time, just hate on other... Man. This issue. Anyway. So, we cut to the guys. And you know what? I ain't even going to do it justice. I ain't going to do this 1966 intolerance justice. Let's take a closer examination. Examination? Examination? You know what I'm saying. Let's just look at it. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how stereotypical are these Central American men drawn in 1966? And if you thought hella, you guessed it. That's right. Three dudes just walking around in sombreros. You got No Country for Old Men over here. And what looks like the Tapatio guy in his criminal days. I mean, if you need a reference point, that this guy looks like this guy. Yeah. And his girlfriend's like, no, Manuel, leave the henchman life, and we shall make hot sauce, and our people shall love us for it. And that's like a true story. That really happened. I'm glad he got in the hot sauce game. Manuel. He looked like a Manuel, didn't he? Yeah, I'm glad he changed his life around after all this, because that hot sauce game is lucrative. It's real spicy. See what I did there? Spicy hot. Anyway, so back to the issue. We'll keep rolling. The X-Men trail El Tigre to a museum. because that's where the amulet is, apparently. So they go, and the next thing you know, the X-Men are being razzed by the stuff in the museum. You take his half of the amulet, like the amulet, and he can use it to control things, I guess. They weren't really specific about his powers. It seemed like telekinesis, but also there's mind control, because the henchman, who he brought, who we just saw, why would you bring the same henchman that turned on you, Ben? Like, you don't reward your worst worker with a paid vacation to go, treasure exploring some more. No, you fire him. Anyway, I digress. This issue is all over the place, so this review has been all over the place. For the 25th issue, you'd think they would do something special, but nah, we gonna keep it business as usual. Roy Thomas is like, we got a hit here, baby. And, does he? Museum, they go and they start fighting stuff like a suit of armor and woolly mammoths, because every museum has one. And Hank is always the first person to get knocked out, and this is no different. He gets KO'd quick. Now, Iceman getting knocked out was the most insulting, because they are trained superheroes. And you know how they got him? They tripped him. They put a string, very Looney Tunes-like plan. They put a string on the ground across these two stairs or whatever, and he tripped, boom, hit his head on the wall. He's out for the count. Now, Angel said some racist stuff too about these guys that I ain't even gonna repeat, because even if it was a different time, as jacked up as a Latino man, I was like, what the heck? And not Angel, but Archangel's one of my favorite X-Men. Kind of took him down a peg in my eyes for saying that. But, if you want to look it up, X-Men number 25, look it up. So, we're down to Cyclops. Everybody else knocked out. Cyclops gets tied up. El Tigre gets both parts of the amulet, puts it together. And you guess what? My wife called it. He ends up turning into a god. Like, he turns into this ancient god who's like, El Tigre is no more, only I survive. And it was the same thing as the Enchantress in Suicide Squad, that movie, which was not great. And, sorry DC fanboys, it was not. Let's keep it real. That lady spent the whole movie just doing this. Not like this. Not like this. But like this. Like, oh, I'm possessed, I'm possessed. And that's all she did. Let's be honest, that's all she did. Anyway, end of issue. That was it. It's a two-parter, folks. We on this ride for another issue. Final thoughts. You know what? Let me collect myself. Final thoughts. Okay, this issue was one of the worst issues of X-Men I have read so far. 25th anniversary, or not 25th issue. Think they would do it big. Maybe they weren't into celebrating, landmark issues like that or whatever. Like, 25 is pretty good. You made it all the way there. And, yeah, the action was lame. X-Men fighting... Angel fought a woolly mammoth this issue. That's all he fought. And all he did was swoop under the trunk. And then the next one, like, oh, I didn't see that one. Boom, knocked out. Iceman got tripped. He got tripped. Like, what was the plan B? To tie his shoelaces together? Action was lame. The story seemed like 3 or 4 ideas crammed into one, so it was not cohesive. It did not gel. We got orphanage fire. We got Jean in college. We got El Tigre shenanigans. We got blatant racism from... That's another point I'm going to get to. And then we got just boring action. All this... Papa Chuck's clumsy. He trips on the stairs. And he doesn't even have a life alert bracelet to help him out. Anyway... And then the most insulting thing was that the X-Men, who are preaching tolerance among humans for mutants, are they themselves profiling these dudes. Now, granted, the 3 dudes that they picked were the bad guys, so they were right in that respect, but still, what the heck, man? You know what, those 3 dudes over there, the one who was trying to pay in pesos? Yeah. Something's up with them. Let's follow them. Forget the guy who looks like Magneto in a suit. He's fine, I'm sure. Hey, Magneto. Yeah. Yeah. He's fine. He's fine. Let's follow these 3 guys. Anyway, it's a good thing those days are over of intolerance. So this issue is a 2 out of 10. Not the best issue. Actually, one of the worst issues, like I said, I've read. We can hopefully get better in the second part, though my faith in Roy Thomas is next to nothing. So we will see next week on Tommy Reads X-Men. If you like what you are seeing, if you're mildly entertained by what you're seeing, if you got one chuckle from what you're seeing, please like and subscribe down here in this channel. Every like, every subscription, every time you do something for the channel, it really helps get the word out. I appreciate it. Hit the notification bell in the corner there. It's somewhere there. You'll find it. You're smart. Anyway, this has been Tommy Reads X-Men. Come back and check us out next week for the 26th issue. This has been X-Men number 25. It can only get better, folks. Later.